Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our next DIH talk on a quite interesting topic on how artificial intelligence can be applied in manufacturing, basically. Um, I have to admit, we struggled this morning a bit on technology on our platform, and unfortunately, even some of our speakers had problems to connect, and I hope that was not the same for those that are just attending. So we might face a little changes in the way we go. But anyway, we do our best to get through it. And let me just share before we go into the details a few information about this platform for those that are connecting first time. Actually, we have quite a record number of registrations for this sessions, which is about 100, more than 110 registrations, which clearly indicates that this topic of AI, machine learning, and data in manufacturing is actually quite interesting and relevant for our sector. Now, before going deeper, quickly how to use the tool. So the webinar will be recorded and it's also available via this platform, but also via the Luxinnovation YouTube channel later on for replay. Okay, so then you see on the upper right-hand side actually three different areas. We have actually planned two polls, sorry, this morning. If you have questions, particularly to the speakers that will present this morning, please use the question section. Now, and here we go. I hope it's not the same as it is for me. I'm a bit irritated because my slides are flipping quite slow. I hope it's not the same on your side. I mean, since we have so many new, potentially new participants this morning in this session, just quickly who we are. I mean, the Digital Innovation Hub of Luxembourg exists for more than 3 years. By beginning of the year, we actually got rewarded to become a European digital innovation hub, which has several advantages, particularly for our ecosystem. One is certainly that we are allowed to provide kind of microservices to our ecosystem to help you to initialize projects, to get assessed in the different areas that are related to Industry 4.0 technologies, robotization, automation, and digital innovation in general. So we see ourselves a bit as a middleman between all the different actors. Actually, the webinar today is a classic example, because we like to bring enablers, solution providers, together with those that like to apply technology. And that's basically our role. But of course, our objective is to help companies that are producing also to get into real engagements and start projects in that environment. Mentioning the E-DIH change, as mentioned, is allowing us to provide different services, either assessments or going deeper in also test before invest. And at the end of today's session, I will also present one specific test before invest service that we are providing in the field of artificial intelligence with our consortium partner LIST. Today's session is actually the third session out of 3. We called this mini series, let's say we called it turning data into information. By that meaning, of course, the data as such will not support anything. You need to make it meaningful before you can act on the data you gather. And there is let's say, a lot of talk about artificial intelligence in the market, But we were very concerned, and that's consistent with the feedback we have from our ecosystem, that many companies are struggling actually with the data gathering, connecting the different technologies and infrastructure you have typically running in a production: controllers, SCADA system, machines, robots, things like that. That was our first session. The second session was focusing on the analytical part, because even if the ultimate goal is to apply AI, you win so much typically in such a project before you get to the level of AI. And that's actually was our motivation to split it into three, again, from data gathering and connectivity, analytical, and today the AI part. And we are doing that because we know from all kind of studies that you are probably also aware of, that particularly for manufacturing companies, there is a lot to gain. Here's just one example of a study where it is clearly indicating, and this was a study done with 650 international companies in Europe, North America, and Asia, where you can achieve in average up to 10% of OEE improvement and reduction of cost. Now, we are also interested to understand your motivation. If you would move to the interactivity, I'd like to ask you just to tell us why you are attending today, because this is certainly giving us some indication on where you are standing, what is driving your interest, particularly when it comes to the level of artificial intelligence and/or machine learning. So please go ahead and answer those questions in this little poll. Now moving ahead, and I'm quite really proud, I have to say, to present today the company Erico, that is right now in an implementation of an AI solution for their production. I'm particularly proud because with Erico, since we have started the DIH activities, we had a first get to know in our famous, or meanwhile popular, bus that is, by the way, also starting touring around by next week. We met last year the entire management team of Erico in the bus again. They were listening to our AI workshops that we were presenting in the bus as part of our last year program. And this year, I'm really happy to be able to present Erico now as a speaker, because they are indeed in an implementation. And I really like to welcome Xavier and also Philip to share us the experience from your project. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. So yeah, indeed, it started 1 year ago. I remember we just wanted to get some information about technology, so we're in that famous bus. And yeah, we heard the presentation. One of them was with data. And I think at this stage, we didn't know what would happen within the year. And I think it was quite a busy year, and quite excited to present what happened. And I want to say a big thank you also to Wizata and to Luxinnovation that was really helping us along the way. So basically, we had many goals while doing this. It was increasing the quality of our products. That is basically one of our core value, and that is kind of really important for us and for our client, as you can imagine, but also to become more energy efficient. And we'll see how we did that with AI and machine learning. And it's kind of interesting because, like, in most cases, when you work in production and when you learn about the digital assessment, the AI, it looks kind of fun, it looks exciting, but most of the company do believe that it's not really for them. And I have to say that it's really interesting to see what those guys can do for you, because our process, as we will see, is kind of really simple, but there's lots of things we can improve with technology. So it won't be long, but I'll just do a brief introduction about the company and where we are at right now. So we are basically importing and exporting nuts, and we have a plant facility of a bit less than 4,000 square meter here in Luxembourg in Steinzel. Our process is really simple. We just import raw product, we roast them in big roasters, as you can imagine, and we do the packaging line. And once it's done, we just ship them all across Europe because like 99% of our clients are in Europe. It's a family company. So it was founded in 71 by Mr. Abbas Rafi that you can see in the center of the picture. By the way, the picture was taken 2 months ago, and we had the privilege to add in our premises Grand Duke Guillaume and the Minister of Economy, Franz Fayot, who was also glad to see that they were like operational company in Luxembourg that was there since 50 years. And we hope that the nice family story will continue in the coming years, and we'll see how technology will help us to do that. So we are basically having as clients a supermarket chain and discounter across Europe, meaning that we have lots of volume, but we also have quite a bit of challenges because, as you can imagine, working with supermarket chain is a bit tough on negotiation, and the margin are quite low. So it's been quite a challenge, especially in the last few years. For the story, Mr. Rafi introduced the pistachio in the European market. He's Iranian, and the family Rafi is from an Iranian family. And then they were introducing pistachio that was not known by the European customer before. So, as I said, it's a family-owned company, and our main focus and pillar, and I think that's what made the success of Ireco, is that we always put the client first, and we have a qualitative approach, meaning despite the economical factors, quality is always first because that's what made the success of the company, and it's really important for the family to keep it that way. We heavily relied in the past and still now on the experience of our engineers or internal know-how. So we are lucky enough to have people that are in the company since 20, 25 years in some cases, and they know the product very well, they know our plant very well, or the machine, or they worked, or to deal with them, or to do the settings. So we're quite lucky for that. But on the other hand, we saw, as I was saying, like in the last 3-4 years, a couple of challenges. First of all, there was a COVID, and then we got the Ukrainian war and inflation. As you can imagine, we had already low margin, and we saw a surge in a couple of our charges, including gas, electricity, and of course, interest rates. I think that's a big challenge that many companies are facing, and you have to kind of reinvent yourself to stay competitive in the market, because if you're not, then you will have a going concern problem in the future. So we went more in the bus last year to kind of accelerate our digital transformation, but also to start the journey. And as I can see in the poll at the moment, to get some update on related technology. And then we quickly understand that you can combine economic benefit from the technology and benefiting with a better quality approach. So it's going to be relatively short. We have 3 main focus areas. We'll see how the technology helps us to reduce energy consumption in the roasting process. We maintain, or even I think increase, the quality of the output, because we are dealing with organic product, mostly pistachio, where humidity can vary a lot depending on the supplier, depending on the weather condition. And we also increase the operation efficiency of the whole plant. So the first pillar is reduce energy consumption. So as you can imagine, AI is quite sexy, but it also, of course, comes with a price because there's lots of technology, lots of work behind it. And yes, there is a machine learning, but there is human behind it doing all the work, implementing a tailor-made solution to make sure it's adapted to your situation, to your problem. And as I mentioned, we had already issues with profitability. So we are really looking at our cost internally. So we kind of try to find a solution with Wizata in order to make sure that it can be also efficient in terms of budget. A good way to do that is that the price of gas and electricity surged in the last few years. It more than doubled. And discussing with Wizata, we realized that using our roster differently by exploring different temperature sets, we could probably decrease the consumption of gas by 15%, which would represent 100K annually for us. So that's kind of a sweet spot because even though it looks a bit expensive at first glance, it can make you some economy, and the ROI on project can be inferior to 1 year or maybe 2 years. And it's kind of nice to know that you can have an upgrade to use the technology to have a better quality and also doing in an efficient manner, meaning it will be kind of break even within 1 or 2 years for the company. Second point would be to maintain consistent quality for our product. So as I mentioned, we're dealing with organic product where raw humidity can vary. So basically the pistachio can come with 3 to 6, 7% humidity rate, which is kind of a huge change for the pistachio. And we have two constraints. If humidity gets too low at the output of our process, it would affect profitability, or we might even end up losing money. And if we have a too high humidity, it could affect the taste and the quality of our product. And the customers, therefore, won't be happy and we won't have the contract next year. So we have to find a sweet spot. As I say, we used kind of the human knowledge that we had internally that is kind of good. The only issue with that is that they are still human, and by using technology, we were putting sensor in our production unit, especially at the roster level. So while we're checking the humidity level, we're checking the temperature of the roster, and we're checking the energy consumption. So it's quite a trick to Wizata to optimize everything, but knowing that we have humidity on a real-time basis means also that we can pretty much adapt in real time the temperature, the speed of the conveyor, and the energy consumption to make sure everything is optimized. And that, even with the best roster guys that we have in the plant, we wouldn't be able to do. So we can ensure that our client will get the best quality all the time and pretty much for every nut that is going out of the plant. That is kind of a big difference. The third one is smart manufacturing. So be more informed to take better decision. So we are a family company. We had a good know-how, but we had lots of data from our machinery that we were not exploiting enough. And with Wizata, we are able to get much more data than we had before. So as I mentioned, we'll have a real data monitoring to give us correct information to the right people at the right time. Meaning, if an intervention is needed, it will monitor in real time what's happening at the roster level, and it can tell the guy who is there if some manual intervention need to be done. And if it can do it itself, it will correct automatically. Plus, and I think that's kind of a sweet spot, it can also connect and give information to the chief of production that will be able to monitor in real time what is happening in the plant at the roster level, but at a global level as well. So it can, Joe was speaking about OEE. Basically, it can monitor everything in real time and making sure what is working a bit less, and why it's happening, and take correcting action pretty much in real time. So at this stage, we're connecting one roster. to connect the 4 roaster and the 7 packaging line. Basically, we do want to connect the whole plant and to have a kind of digital twin of our plant to make sure we can just have the data pretty much in real time. And we are able to send messages, alert if necessary. And the goal is always the same, and to be more informed, to take better decision. And if we do it manually, there is a big lag of time between the information and the action, which can end up in losing time and losing money at the end of the day. So that will help us to be more efficient and in the end more competitive in the market. So where we are at right now, as I mentioned, we kind of did a pilot phases on the first roster. We already connected the roster. We installed everything. We updated our network to make sure we can get all the data from the roster in real time. Once again, we're collaborating with Luxinnovation and with Zata that are helping us. And I think that's also an important point. I was mentioning the kind of budget point that is important because like it could be seen as a lot of money, but the break even and the payback can be pretty fast because like you make economy of energy, you get better quality product and can get therefore more contract. But also along the way, you're not alone. And I think that's really important because especially for family company, all those aspects can be pretty scary because like they used to do well, but they are not used to have technology guy, and we don't have technology guy internally. And knowing that there's Wizata and Luxinnovation looking at the project, being available for the question is kind of a blessing because you feel like you always have someone with you along the line, and you feel like if something go wrong or if you need to reroute something, you will be able to mentioning and the issue will be addressed. So I guess if there is somebody in the audience that was wondering or was interesting about AI, it's really worth contacting Luxinnovation. We'll be able to put you in contact with the provider to make a first meeting just to make an assessment and see where you stand. And I'm mentioning that, but in parallel to this project, we're also making digital maturity assessment that is also led by Luxinnovation. And it's basically kind of a photography or where you stand digitally. And it helps you to assess where you are, assess where you want to be in the next 2-3 years, and basically giving you a roadmap. So Wizata and the roster project is basically one of the projects that we are currently implementing and the most advanced, but there could be many along the way, and therefore it's nice to know where you are, where you want to be, and how do you compare to the market as well. Just a final word. As I mentioned, we want to expand to all the facility, meaning the roster, meaning the packing line, and last but not least, we didn't study that with Wizata yet, but that's an interesting topic that we could see in the future. They could deploy predictive maintenance, which means that basically, since you have the data from all your machinery in the production, it would be help you to kind of predict your maintenance. And honestly, that part was kind of mind-blowing last year when I heard it from Philippe. It kind of monitor in real time what's happening to your machine, meaning that if something is not going as it should be, it can give you alerts, as I was mentioning, but it can also stop the machine, telling you, okay, we stop the machine because if we continued, there is probably 90% chance that you would have broken a piece of your machinery in the next 15 minutes. So it's stopping. Of course, you can start it back if you think it's an error, but it's up to you, and it can save you a lot of money. Instead of repairing, you can just stop the machine, doing the necessary maintenance, and continue working. So I think it's a great asset having those technology. I guess it's all new for us because like last year, like AI, I think the broader audience heard about ChatGPT pretty much last year. So it's all new topic, it's all sexy topic, and it looks kind of another world of specialist, and it can be kind of scary in the beginning. But I think for us, even though we don't have a technological background, it was a good experience, and I feel like we were well supported by with data and Luxinnovation in that, and really was taking a look. Even if you feel like you're not ready, you can just discuss where you're at and just keep the information. And when you will be ready, jump into it. So that's all for me. I hope it was okay for timing.
Xavier, I have to say, because I did already an overrun at the very beginning. And very interesting what you were sharing here, particularly at the beginning, mentioning the human factor, which was part of our best practice advice last year in the bus, um, including the people. We have not received a question in the questionnaire section yet, but may I ask how you have staffed the project team that is responsible for this project at Ereco?
So basically, there is well, of course, the management is involved, the chief lead production much more because, as you can imagine, you have to install the probe, you have to make sure it doesn't disturb the production line, and then with that, I did a lot of work at the moment, and for the implementation, it's also communication with the team, explaining why you are doing that, how it will help us to be more competitive, and how it will help us to run the production more smoothly. And it's basically using technology and human hand in hand, you know.
Okay, very interesting. Still no questions visible on my side, but as said, I have a bit delay in my panel here. But I mean, you mentioned also that as well for you, and we see that quite often at this moment due to the increase in cost of energy prices, that energy is actually the door opener for this kind of implementations. And I understood that was the same for you.
Yeah,
Correct?
it's
Yeah.
there were two key points in the last few years. There were, well, maybe three. There is inflation, there is a rise of interest rate, and the third one is clearly the energy. We saw the price of gas more than double in the last 2 years, and we don't know what will happen. So basically, what we can act on is how much kilowatt hour and how much new cubic meter we are consuming, and if we can improve that part, that can make the project really worth.
Okay. In that context, we have now a question from Tom asking if you would be willing to disclose a little bit your ROI considerations. Did you always, I don't know when you started the project, the implementation and gain cost. Can you say something on the ROI?
Well, basically, it's a bit tricky at this stage because we will do the project in many stages with data, and it's a going on project. And but I would say even if we take the overall scope, meaning that we have pretty much a digital twin of the production unit, including the predictive maintenance, and considering the 15% reduction of energy, I think the payback would be in less than 2 years.
Less than
So,
2 years.
so it's really, it could be really interesting. And the best of all that is that, yeah, the payback is like after 2 years, but after you have the kind of a different plant and different technology with you that you will keep,
Okay,
and you
very,
will still saving money on gas later on. So
yeah. Very interesting. I mean, just from our visibility that we have in the market, even if you would use it to energy only, what we see is that during the quotation phase, the project building phase, typically we saw our eyes ranging between 15, 20 months for similar projects.
yeah.
And the reality was that actually most of them paid back within a year already, of course,
Mhm.
related to the high energy cost and very much depending on the energy consumption of a company, of a producer, of course.
Yeah, but plus I'm just talking about the energy here, but clearly with the predictive maintenance, you will have less cost of maintenance as well that I didn't count in the calculation. So it could be short, but
Okay.
it's fair to say in less than 2 years, I guess.
Okay. Thank you, Xavier. There are
Thank
no
you very
further
much, Joe.
questions in the panel yet, and due to the time, I think we move on. If you have additional questions, please continue to put them in the question section. Xavier or Visata can also respond in writing through this panel. So don't be shy. Simply ask your question. Thanks
Thank you very
again,
much.
Xavier and Visata team, and I will move ahead with the next part. Again, it takes a bit before the screen is showing up. I mean, just to give some feedback on this question asked, more than 50% actually rated that they are connected and part of the talk today because they like to receive an update on related technology. And the next three are equally shared, just for if you're curious about who is attending these kind of webinars. Then I'm absolutely happy to introduce Deloitte with Amadine and Nicolas. Again, my screen is coming. We are actually again Deloitte has been part of our ecosystem also for quite a while, also because of the fact that they have started to put a group together that is truly focusing on manufacturing. And Amadine, I know for fact, has a deep knowledge and experience since many, many years in manufacturing and technologies. And the same is on Nicola, who is from a DNA, mechanical and electrical engineer, as far as I know, and also partner on AI and for data. So thanks for joining us today, Deloitte team, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the intro as well. So as said, you have two people today. We tend to address the market together on those topics. I focus on developing our technology offerings and services in manufacturing. Nico is our expert in data and AI, and we like the combination of the two. So maybe I'll just ask you, because I think you are going to be sharing our
That's correct.
presentation due to little technical limitations.
It will take a bit of time.
Yeah, we have a bit of a delay in it. Yeah.
We'll wait for a second.
And maybe as a preliminary, obviously, what we are going to present is definitely what we have done with a client of us together, touching the why, the when, what we have done, how we did it, and actually who is benefiting from the solution at the end of the day. And we can see the screen now.
So yeah, we can see the screen. You can probably go to the next slide and even the one after, because I think Nico just took you through the table of content, which, as said, we tried to keep pretty simple. Why did this journey even start? When? Essentially, what were the steps? What was the solution? How did we do it? And then who could benefit from it? It's just one use case, and what you'll see is it's a good segue from the last one, because this will show you that AI in manufacturing is relevant no matter the size of the company. The use case in the company we're going to be talking about is a company that has almost 100,000 employees worldwide. However, it doesn't mean that you need that scale in order to benefit from it. I'm waiting. We're still on the title.
Yeah, it's the same
page. That's why I'm
the same on my side. Unfortunately, I'm looking at my colleague. If we can do something about it.
Yeah, that's
Perfect,
the one.
perfect,
That's
yeah.
perfect. That's good. That's okay. Okay, so we're going to be talking you through one use case with one specific technology that was developed. It's obviously not the only way to do this, but we thought this was a relevant use case. So first of all, The client we're going to be talking about, as I said, is a global client of a certain size. They do materials trading. So different kind of material, mostly steel, and they serve different industries. So, for example, automotive, they are considered an OEM, but they serve a variety of industries. And one of their main motto for the past few years has been to stop providing materials and services and to provide materials as a service. Why? For a few things, to help with supply chain optimization. So as you know, when you're this type of company, you're somewhere in the middle in the value chain. So you need to be able to optimize. And if you just ship the material and not care, that doesn't help. They wanted also to be able to provide continuous designing with the people that are downstream from what they do, promote co-creation, collaboration, and, as I said, better vertical integration. Now, as it's been said before, and as I think we keep hearing, the industry is facing big challenges. So the cost, the energy shortages, geopolitical instability, I've just named a few here. I think everyone that's listening is well aware of that. But so with that combined, that made for them the material flow and supply chain continuity quite a challenge. And at the same time, they needed to stay on top of their emissions. So what happened is they worked with us in order to develop a product, but that is really originally a concept and really a story to be able to better predict and plan the demand so that then they could forecast better and take better actions and better decisions. Going back to one of the questions that was asked earlier, a lot of the objectives and KPIs were set from the beginning. I will not disclose the exact numbers here just because I cannot. However, if someone is interested, I'm sure we can ask our clients how much we can share on that topic. And what you'll see is quite interesting is this all started as a proof of concept. This is now a full-blown launched venture and company. So if you go to the next slide, hopefully it.
Yes, I can see it already.
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just gonna. I'll give it a sec. You know what? Maybe I'll start and then we'll see when. Oh, perfect. It's here. So originally, as I said, the conversation started really on some of the challenges that were occurring. So it's not like the AI-based product was the known solution. We were working with these clients and had companies had workshops and co-creation sessions with them to try and see and explore what can we do, what are the key pain points, how can we get to something that helps the situation. Some of you may not know, maybe all of you do not know, we have what we call a smart factory in Düsseldorf, where we do this type of session, but also have an entirely automated little production line. This is where some of those sessions happened. And at that point, again, the goal was really to get into co-creation mode. That launched the idea of an AI-based product that would solve some of these issues. And we'll talk a little bit more about the product and the details of it afterwards. And so we started with concepts, a bit of a roadmap, and got into POC building. So that proof of concept was built and essentially tested for themselves to see if that could work. Now, the proof of concept period was quite successful. The objectives are done. And therefore, the question came, what can we do with it? So obviously, there is scaling for that company. But the challenges they were answering were not just their own. They were the challenges of pretty much everyone in that industry and beyond that industry. So this is where we got into the last two parts of that journey. I mean, the one that you see on this slide, because to be fair, this journey is still continuing, evolving and expanding by the day, which was how do we then build a product that can be launched on the market? What you'll see, and Nico will talk to you about, is a proof of concept on the AI side doesn't mean that you have the robustness and the scalability that you need to do it somewhere else. There are a number of considerations, but also from a business model and a venture perspective, well, you need funds, you need the different operating models, so on and so forth. So this is what we'll talk you through. But before we go through this whole part, Nico is going to talk you through what is this product that we are talking about. What is this AI-based solution? And right now, I don't know if you can manage to share the link that we had shared just before, if it will work or not.
We are trying. Just a moment. As said, we have a few delays. I think, by the way, just to say that we will overrun for a few minutes today, which is then also related to the technical challenges we face here. And wait a moment. We are trying to put it in. And I see it coming already on my side, Amandine and Nico.
Yeah, so what you are going to see, if it happens, it's obviously the video which is showcasing what our full solution now is capable of. And then we will go into the detail of what was the beginning of the journey, the key features that we have developed for the sake of the MVP.
I'm just checking this. Yeah, so it started. So again, we see the same
Global
delay.
supply chain networks are getting increasingly complex. Unexpected events bringing global value chains out of pace, and the escalation of climate change accelerate the need for an efficient and sustainable supply chain solution. In order to respond to these disruptions, we developed Pacemaker, an AI-powered solution that analyzes data from different sources along the supply chain and connects these insights through federated learning, ensuring data privacy for every stakeholder. Forecast future demands with unprecedented accuracy and benefit from Pacemaker's proven record. Use our powerful filtering tools to generate reliable predictions, even for single components. Track the true carbon dioxide emissions of your products across the value chain. The generated insights fuel additional applications and provide input to improve existing supply chain tools. Take advantage of our connected data to enter a more resilient, efficient, and sustainable future of supply chains. With Pacemaker.
Okay, so that finally came with a little delay. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you can go back to the presentation and go to the next slide then. So this video was showing you what is Pacemaker today, and maybe now we should approach what we have done as an MVP first to qualify that the solution was relevant for the client first, but as you understood, also relevant for the market as well on the second step, which was actually one of the challenge with which is that we had to brainstorm about a solution which is solving the issue directly for the client in order to have a quick win as part of the MVP, and also anticipate any, let's say, change as part of the organization as well. As you are optimizing the process, you do optimize the operating model as well. And that was also a key point. And at the same time, considering what was the challenge of the industry, also to be sure that we do have the right parameters and variables to not only be problem solver for our client, but also for other clients over the long run, which was in the best interest of our client also into this venture. So key feature, 2 points. So the demand forecasting engine and the product carbon intelligence, which for us, when I mean us, it's Deloitte and our client, was the key point to achieve as part of the MVP. Being able to manage this demand forecast, meaning measure on one end what was the needs for the client, what was the top star product, and what was the raw material which were requested to build those products, and to be sure that we can manage the stock of those material and product as well in an optimal manner. And on the other hand, I mean, we are living now in a world where the sustainability impact is something which is key for company, not only for the fact that they would like to consume less, but the challenge that Amandine has listed out at the beginning on actually the price of the labor, the price of the materials as well. So we want to ensure that each time actually we move a raw material or a product, it's for an ultimate purpose which is valuable for the company at the end. Now, if we go to the next slide, we will deep dive into the demand forecasting engine. And it will come soon. So you can imagine that we were receiving a lot of information from various sources. Should it be from the plants directly, or from the product department, the marketing department, what they were pushing on the market? We were absorbing, you saw that on the video, we were absorbing actually information coming from various data sources from the company, from external data sources, which are structured or not structured, from IoT, regular database, or documentation as well, and putting all of that together. And at the same time, and obviously on top of the challenges that you have listed out just before, we have all the data challenges, meaning the availability of the data, the frequency at which you receive those data, the quality of the data at the end of the day for what you would like to do with it. So that there were a lot of feature engineering to adapt the data to our own needs and to build the model. And as an input as well, from a business perspective, we were looking at clustering the client of our client, the products they were consuming, the top star products that they would like to push in that might not be actually the top star products that were by the client. Typically, tree-based model, taking into account the internal process of our client. We obviously have acceptance process in order to launch a product, certain threshold to reach as well, to be sure that actually it benefits to the company and that we are not destroying the margin at the end of the day. We also analyze the seasonal effect of the business product per product, and looking back to the initial ROI that the client was expected, to be sure that at the end of the day, it does not come as a surprise that it's a good ROI, it's a good news, or actually it's super bad and we shouldn't not invest any money on those type of process. And last stage, when we did that, meaning acquire all the source, be sure that we are aligned with the process. We applied a machine learning model to detect patterns and also analyze them. And one of the key points I would like to say over there is that obviously it's a lot of back-end work to get the data, to analyze them, and so on. But at the end of the day, the key point is to onboard the business as part of the journey. And that's where actually data visualization is playing a huge role to be able actually to showcase the information. I guess just before Ariko was showing kind of the same stuff on the dashboard side, to be sure that the business understand what is happening and that we are able actually to provide the KPIs that we're expecting to receive to measure the outcome of it. So just for information, so it was full Python-based, running on Azure, because I saw that actually some of you are interested to understand what are the type of technologies which are using. But I can say as well that today actually all the technologies are available on the cloud, or it could be on premises as well. That's not an issue. I mean, we know that actually we have the chance in Luxembourg to have the Luxina as well for such a works. So it's definitely something where we can guide you on what could be the best component depending on your actually criteria. If we move to the next slide, then maybe to approach the sustainability. So maybe introducing where the slides are coming. Obviously, when we look at transportation, it's the full journey. It's obviously the transportation of the client from one plant to another. It's also actually the transportation impact from the external provider. So what we did was to collect a lot of information regarding the provider of the clients to build what we do call a sustainability index, meaning what are the type of transport they use between the truck, the train, the boat, and so on, and what are their, let's say, the emission along the journey and classify them. Obviously, we took that as a first start to sort out actually what could be the best provider depending on the area of the world, optimizing actually the full journey of the raw material and the product. And we were then putting that into a model to further forecast what will be the change, considering all the challenges that we have mentioned before. If you have a storm somewhere, actually the track that you envision and which is typically the best one to take might not be the best one anymore, and you need to change the route, maybe then change the supplier and so on. So that's really actually what this component is helping to solve all along the journey, taking into account the lead time, the emission, and obviously the cost at the end of the day. It goes without saying that that's a kind of indicator that was mainly used before actually looking at the emission, and it's still part of the equation. So thanks to that, we were able, if on one end, to achieve the demand forecast, having something which is much more in line with the reality, not only with the reality of what actually the business is pursuing, but also considering external factors. And on the end, this one in particular on the sustainability was the additional external factor we were building through the sustainability index to be sure that as part of the equation, we can still promote the fact that the product which is sold at the end of the day is the most sustainable it can be in the way it is produced and distributed.
Thank you, Nico. Maybe also in consideration of the time, on that, if I see now the fact on the sustainability, before it was rather supply chain driven. For me, I'm quite impressed about this pacemaker platform, I have to say, and I see it's more a holistic solution, I would say. Would you agree to that?
It's so just quickly on this one. So it is quite holistic. The industries and people that are facing these challenges are typically the same, and therefore it was important to tackle them both at once. But yes, you can say it's quite a holistic platform.
Okay. I mean, when you have sent me the white paper, in preparation for this webinar, I was quite impressed that out of a project, a product was born. Would you still say that it is only for larger players, global players, even with complex supply chains, for example? Or would you say it's even applicable to a mid-range company or even a small company as well?
So I'd say like every tool, you really need to assess the needs and the gains that you may have versus the cost complexity of implementation. We do not see this as just something for extremely large scale companies. I think on the very small companies, the question may start to be asked, but it's like everything. I think a quick assessment can give you the answer of whether it makes sense or not. The challenges actually are exactly the same from the small players to the big players. The advantage of a solution like this is that you don't have to have all of the manpower that's associated typically with solving the challenges. However, can I say that it's a valid solution for 100% of companies in 100% of the markets? No, and I will never say that about any platform, just to be clear.
Okay. No, very good answer, I have to say. Yep.
And maybe to add up on that, just a reality check, coming back to what we have presented just before, we are starting with an MVP. So we didn't start with a full range of product of the client. Actually, we pick it up, the one which has the best interest for the client, were posing trouble actually as part of their distribution process. But reality check wise, we looked at what was the data available, what was the data with the right quality level as well. So we definitely can, this solution at this stage is really something that can take a lot of problem at large scale, but obviously we always start, even with new client, with looking at the first process, because it's not only, the solution, there is no magic in the air at the end of the day. It's about the transformation as well, to be sure that we can access the various data, historical data, and in real time. And I guess we are all quite aware around the table that for some of the product and some of the process is just not possible or the investment is really too much actually to make it happen. So we can scale the solution to what is reasonable, acceptable as well for our client.
And I think maybe just because obviously conscious of time and more than happy to share this, if you go to slide 13, what we can show you is typically who do we consider, oh, wait a second. Okay, no, okay. Who can benefit from this type of solution. This does not negate what I just said earlier. It always needs some kind of assessment to ensure that you do have a positive ROI and you do not create unnecessary complexity. But
if you jump on 30.
Yeah, I think if you, perfect, it's almost there. Okay, so here we try to just summarize quickly who can benefit from this. Like what would make you say, I might need that? The first one, and it's actually extremely common in the industry, is your predictions are based on experience. It may be little based on data and some information, but often you have people that have been working in the industry for a very long time, and they actually can't quite explain to you why they predict. Again, it's a complex world, so it's not just previous demand or what your clients are telling you they demand. It's also a lot of external factors. The second thing is on the forecast created manually. And I've seen way more clients than I can count that do this in Excel. And for those that are part of smaller companies, you'd be surprised by the number of giant global companies that do that in Excel as well. And the last thing on the forecast part is there may be tools, but that are not reliable. Why? A lot of the tools are based on historical data, and with the pace at which everything is changing and all of the external factors that can impact your forecast, it just may be insufficient to get to the right value.
And maybe then on the sustainability part, obviously ESG is part of the equation, and we know that ESG is valuable for a company if you are able to measure it in a real-time basis, because having that as a kind of report at the end of the year, that's quite good for the annual report, definitely, but it does not help on a day-to-day basis to make an impact. And that's where actually the solution can help to structure actually the feed, to identify what are the right source of information to measure actually your ESG KPI, and to bring that as part of your supply chain as a kind of decision point also to produce the way you produce in the future. And one of the challenge as well is when we say we would like to be more sustainable is to understand as well, yeah, but how are we going to measure that, practically speaking? And that's where the solution can help as well, not only to get the information, but also to give an understanding on when and how it can be built all along the production chain. And finally, on the investor and client side, they do need transparency on that. So anyway, having just an information on that at the end of the day, at the end of the year, doesn't help. Product per product, you need at some point to provide what was actually the impact of this product from a sustainability perspective.
Okay, thanks, Nico and Amadine. Unfortunately, I mean, I would have a lot more questions. Unfortunately, no further question from the audience yet, or we have a delay again. But thank you very much. Very interesting. And again, this solution pacemaker sounds really interesting for our market, being in manufacturing, due to the typical complexities that we typically find in our ecosystem. So thanks again for being with us. I apologize again for the technical hassle that we had, and we will try to get better in the near future as well. So thanks again. And that will lead me to introduce the third and last speaker of today. And I'm afraid I will have the same little delays here. No, it's coming, at least on my side, a bit quicker now, which is Britta Hild from IS Predict. And I'm particularly proud of, because considering the mission of the, let's say, newly born L-DIH that we are, because we are supposed also to look into the greater region in particularly. And the contact with Britta Hild and IS Predict was actually made through our colleagues from the L-DIH in Saarland. And Britta, I'm really happy to have you in this call. And I know there is quite some experience on your side on manufacturing as well. That was actually our motivation to invite you for this meeting. So welcome and looking forward to listen to your presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Now you should be able to see the slide deck, right?
Not on my side yet, but coming. I see it coming up.
Okay,
As,
so
again,
then,
we have little delays today on
okay,
that platform that we are using.
but now it's there. Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, thanks. First of all, thanks that I'm allowed to speak here to present what we are doing with artificial intelligence. I'm managing director of company IS Predict. And IS Predict, as the name indicates, is doing predictions and beyond. It's also giving recommendations to machine operators, how to control machinery in order to be more efficient in production and in logistics. And I will talk about the topic soon. And I would like to point out the two words which you see on the third line, adaptive and explainable artificial intelligence. And I will talk about it later, so please keep it in mind. So first of all, what is our motivation? Well, as the speakers before said, of course, there is data and we want to get value out of that data, obviously. And for doing all those, of course, what we need is data, and for sure data is available. Not always in the best quality, but it is available and it will be more in the future. So let's do a check. The data path is on the right direction. But that now more and more people want to have value out of their data, want to have data analytics, want to have data scientists, but you cannot copy data scientists. You cannot clone people. Thanks God you can't. And the problem is that the demand is growing and growing, but there's only a small number of data scientists which can get value out of the data compared to the huge demand. So what do you do? Well, a few decades ago, it was the same in production. You needed to scale. It was automation. We have robots now, many robots in production. Now, can you automate data science? Sounds a little bit weird, but actually, yes, it is possible to a certain extent, not completely, but that is what we have actually done. We have developed AI algorithms which partly automate what data scientists do, which automate time-consuming tasks. Like, do you see my hands? Joe, can you tell me if you see my hands?
Yes, we do.
Perfect. So if this is the reality, let's say this is a robot doing something, and then you need your digital twin. That would be my other hand now. And if you, in order to build up the digital twin, that is exactly where data science automation comes in. And now I kick in my little finger. So maybe the digital twin, the model is not 100% perfect, but it's a very good start so that the data science, the scientist, the person can then optimize the digital twin in order to make it as good as possible. So this automation already helps. And for example, a client, German Rail, said that they had worked 9 months with internal and external data scientists in order to build a solution, and it was not reliable in the end. Now, in our case, then they contacted us. In our case, the servers in the IT room, they run for a week or 2 weeks or maybe 4 weeks in order to build that model, the digital twin. And then the data scientist doesn't have to spend weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on it, but he does the final thing, the fine tuning, and then you have the best possible solution, which means automation of certain tasks of a data scientist are possible thanks to self-learning. Then the next keyword is adaptiveness. So you have your robot picking up things, and you have your digital twin. And the digital twin understands, or the predictions now know, when will the robot fail? How much energy will be used? Can you reduce energy demand, for example? But if you change your production or your logistics, the influencing factors are different, then your reality does not map your once so perfect digital twin, which means that a data scientist needs to adapt it. And if the reality is changing again, as we have it in high variant complexity in production, automotive industry, for example, then you would always need a data scientist to do that. And that is one of our clients, ZF, automotive supplier, said, well, we do not always want to adapt. We would need, in our complex environment, complex production processes, we would need an army of data scientists. That's what they said, an army of data scientists. And even if they have all money in the world, you will not get them because they are a rare resource. They are demanded. That is why it is important that AI adapts automatically to changes, and that is also where our self-learning comes in. Then the third bullet point, explaining AI. Clients normally do not come to us and say, oh, we want explaining AI. They don't care how the solution is done. It needs to work in the end. It needs to give them value. But what they say, for example, at German Rail, they wanted to understand when will an engine fail of their locomotives, and they also want to understand why. A locomotive has 4 engines. Why is engine number 1 failing? Why not 2, 3, or 4? I mean, it's the same load, it's the same human factor, the same driver, it's the same weather conditions, it's the same technology. Why is engine number 1 failing and not one of the others? So it's explainability to understand not really how the mathematics works behind it, but from the domain point of view to understand and to get trust. If you can trust the solution, it's much better because we are all human beings. We don't just want to trust something in a blind way. We want to be convinced. And that is where explaining AI helps as well. So that is what we have developed. We have won many innovation awards. You will see it later on. And the topics our clients are interested in is reducing energy costs, obviously, getting more and more important, improving quality. We are mainly working with clients in Germany, Europe. And of course, here the salary is higher than in Asia. And that is, of course, then the products have higher prices and they must be very good in quality. So it's really important to have very good quality and to see what are the reasons for bad quality and give recommendations to machine operators in order to change settings of welding robots, for example, in order to make the quality better. Then it's also about increased equipment efficiency. So overall equipment efficiency, that is about predictive maintenance. I mentioned the awards, but better than awards, of course, are client logos. Clients who said, all right, we want to go with you this path. Then we analyze their data, or we, artificial intelligence, analyze their data, and then they give references on it. So now very quickly, and that is my last slide, I won't read all of that, but just to point out a few projects. As far as all AI projects with self-learning, which means adaptive, and explaining, which means trustworthy artificial intelligence. I talked about German Rail, that is here at the top on the left-hand side, in order to avoid the failure of the engine in a locomotive and to understand that it needs to have certain technical maintenance activities, then they save 90% of the costs, which is a lot. The same is true with Siemens. It was about predictive maintenance of metal presses, and they confirmed a very high accuracy, because that's the point as well. If AI puts up its hand and says, this will be a problem, take action, if it will not be a problem, then trust is gone. So you need to have reliable AI, and 99.x% accuracy, that's quite good. The Japanese client, they do IT data centers, the largest IT data center provider in Asia. And they have thousands and thousands of servers, of switches, of routers, but also of air conditioning systems. And I mean, if air conditioning system does not work well in a building, I mean, we start sweating, okay, but a server cannot sweat, which means it will overheat and data might be lost. So worst thing which can happen. And that is why critical infrastructure are air conditioning systems. And that is exactly...
1 minute, please.
And that is exactly why they said we need to make sure that this works fine. 1 minute then about quality and production. That was about Knauf, building material, where out of 7,000 influencing factors, it was possible to get those 20 which are responsible for not having good quality. Or ZF, automotive supplier, also about quality, also find reasons in complex variant productions why the quality is not good, in order to be much faster to find errors. And then last but not least, taking Opel, PSA where energy costs are reduced. So that is all to sum it up. And then I hand over to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Britta, and quite interesting and also impressive if we see the number of clients and the names. So that already is a bit self-speaking for your company. So compliment for that, and thank you very much. This part of today is without a Q&A. And I will quickly lead to our closing of today. And again, waiting for, and first of all, and I think that was today very visible, that we had here 3 interesting use cases where AI is actually helping companies with good return of investment. So basically confirming what you find in international statistics. And I find that quite interesting. And thanks again to Eriko Visata, Deloitte team, and IS Predict for joining us today. Was very interesting. Now, moving a bit ahead, I'm waiting for the next slide showing up. Again, the delay. I mean, this was, as said at the beginning, a series number 3 out of 3, transforming data into information. Not sure if those that are participating today have listened to all 3 of them. But of course, we are very much interested to get your feedback if the content is really what you expected, or if you are, for whatever reason, not finding what you were looking for today or in the other 2 sessions. So please go ahead and go into the interactivity section and quickly answer this simple question: how satisfied you are. That leads me also, due to the fact that today focus was on AI, we heard a lot that you need specific expertise. Britta was saying you need a data scientist to help you. And of course, on the other hand, the data scientists have to understand how your company is operating, where the challenges are, where maybe some pain points are. And if you do not feel comfortable getting in contact with the private market or with research centers on such a project or potential project, we are offering now a microservice with the support from LIST. We call it Test Before Invest, where we are actually offering kind of workshops at a small scale to lift up the understanding of what AI is all about. Listen to your project team, what are the idea of a potential project, up to the level that we use the data of a client, small scale data, to test your ideas on the AIDA platform, which is the test platform of the LIST here in Luxembourg, so that at the end a client has a better understanding of technology, speaks the language that needs to be when you look for the right partner. So uplifting your know-how within an organization up to a mini specification of what your project could be all about. If you're interested in this service, just contact us. It's fully subsidized. We have to follow some rules, but generally speaking, this is fully subsidized by the European Commission and national state aid here in Luxembourg. Quite interesting if you're considering a project and you look for orientation. Just a few other highlights from our program is certainly the mentioned bus tour, where we met first time indeed Eriko. And the bus tour is starting actually by next week. And we are really looking forward to welcome you on board on this bus tour. Following the feedback we had at the end of last year, we changed a little bit the program, so it's always starting with a factory tour. Then the hosting company will provide some presentations, explanations about automation, robotization, digital innovation, whatever was shown during the factory tour. And we added our consortium partners into the program. As you can see, we will kick off the tour by being at the new test bed in Basharach by List, and you will be able to see it and what is doable and how can List support you in the various areas, as we have a second one at the House of Cybersecurity on October the 4th. So we are looking forward to welcome you on board of our nice bus. Just visit our webpage for registration and visibility of the full program. Last not least, the next DIH talk is also on the horizon, which will be on 20th of October. It will be on design thinking. That was a specific request we have received from our community, what design thinking can actually deliver for a manufacturing company. And we have already found 2 interesting speakers, more on our webpage if you like to find out. That concludes our bit longer webinar DIH talk of today. I really thank you for staying with us, for being with us. Thanks again to the speakers, and sorry again for the technical trouble we had today, and that we also therefore had to extend a little bit our typical 60 minutes. So have a great weekend, and if you're interested to get in contact with us, you know our webpage, you know the names, please speak to us and we are here to help you. And have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.